Over the last 2 years, the globalists have been very keen on trying to control the narrative. And one of the ways that they try to do this is just through outright censorship. So YouTube channels being removed, people being banned off Twitter, etc. The problem with that, though, with just blatant censorship, is that people wake up as a result of it. They realise what's going on, that even the dumbest of the dumb recognise that history has never been on the right side of the censorious. So the globalists have got other ways of trying to control the narrative and to manage the debate other than censorship. I want to talk about some of those methods today. Another thing that they've tried to do to control the narrative is using propaganda. So, you can think about the BBC, Sly News, the mainstream media. They've all been bought and paid for. So I've not used this one for a while, but Gerald Celente coined this term prostitutes or prostitution to describe what they do. And according to Joseph Goebbels, he described propaganda as follows. He said, think of the press as a giant keyboard of what the government can play on. And that's basically what happened during COVID, during what's going on in Ukraine. But the problem with that is that people eventually, even the dumbest of the dumb, eventually realise that what they're watching isn't news. It's pure propaganda that's designed to get you to support the narrative and to influence your actions in a way that favours these global elites and the bankers and the parasite class. So again, it's useful, but it's not the most useful tool that you can use to maintain a narrative and to get people to go along with it. I think the globalists are aware of the shortcomings of censorship and propaganda, and I think in recent times they've been relying on a third way of controlling the narrative, and that narrative control method is self-censorship. So that's where you put the fear of God into the general public, and that fear encourages people to keep their mouths shut. So they self-censor. You don't need to tell people not to say something. They decide of their own free will not to say anything. So I think the globalists really like self-censorship because it's very efficient. You can control what people say without having to employ millions of goons and snoops to constantly cancel people. If you can get people to just shut up and stay obedient and be in this fear state, you've won the battle without expending too much in the way of time and human resources. And I guess for the NHS, they self-censored because they were fearful of being struck off and or ridiculed by their peers. If you remember back to summer 2020, a number of videos appeared on YouTube of the police being heavy-handed towards people that refused to wear the slave muzzle. Now, I think now, in retrospect, that many of those videos were faked, and the people that produced them, well, what they wanted to do was to put people into a fear state, and that fear state would encourage them to be compliant with rules that they otherwise wouldn't have been compliant towards. So what we're looking at here is fake news, fake videos, fake stuff in the media, the goal being to put people into a fear state so that they do a form of self-censorship. They go along with things that they otherwise wouldn't have gone along with. I think there's some other examples too. So if you think back to some of the lockdown protests, there were some pictures that emerged on BBC or in the newspapers of arrests being made. Then there was that one with the photogenic lady with the ginger hair, that was pinned down by the police. I'm not even sure that was what it purported to be in the newspapers. I think it's probably more likely to be something that was designed to stoke up hatred between men and women. A few days ago I got sent a link to an article that apparently appeared in Lockdown Skeptics, and it was about this MEP. He was one of these ones that supports national sovereignty rather than a European superstate. Anyway, this guy had allegedly been apprehended at Gatwick Airport under anti-terror legislation, and his laptop had been seized, and he wasn't allowed a lawyer, and it was all like rather dystopian, yeah, in nature. Now, I don't discount that this event took place, and it may well have been true, as described by this MEP. However, I also don't discount the possibility that this is all staged, that the MEP's like a crisis actor, and what he's doing here is to try to convince people that they should self-censor, that you don't want to become an outspoken critic of the narrative, be it the EU, be it immigration, be it Divic 91, be anything else that's anti the globalist agenda. Because if you do that, you'll get picked up at the airport and bad things will happen to you. So this is another example, I think, of what we've got to be careful of is being scared, yeah, because we've read something that's appeared in the media, might be social media, might be the mainstream media, it doesn't really matter. What we've got to do is not assume that these stories are true. They may well be planted fake stories that are designed to create fear, which in turn encourages us to self-censor rather than speaking the truth. So I guess the message is that you should shut your mouth and not be like this MEP, not open it and get yourself into trouble and get picked up at the airport by the police. In other words, you should be a coward instead and not stand up for what's right and not speak the truth, because something bad might happen to you. So as I say one more time, does it matter whether these stories are true or not? And my answer would be it doesn't matter. From the globalist point of view, the only thing that matters to them is that people believe, and they get into this fear state, and that fear state will encourage them to self-censor, and then you've achieved your goal, job done. People will be obedient towards the narrative because they're cowards. So I think it'd be good to end on a few Bible quotes that are relevant here. So the first one is about fear, and it comes from the Gospel of John, chapter 14, verse 27. So this is Jesus talking, and Jesus says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your heart be troubled, and do not be afraid." Yeah, and I think that's true. What's life for? We have to stand up for what's right, and we have to speak the truth. And with that, we can look at, again, this is from the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verse 32. And again, this is Jesus saying, and he says, "And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." So, you can keep your mouth shut, and you can travel freely, and you can have a nice social credit score and go on foreign holidays and be a nice obedient slave. And my advice to you would be to get a life. There's no point in living as a slave. That's not going to be for me. And I don't think it makes people happy, I think if you go down that route, you end up self-medicating on something, be that alcohol, drugs, or you just go into denial, don't you? And you just become a shadow of the person that you should be. I think the other thing that we should do really is practice discernment. So at the moment, these pressure groups, Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion, they're on the news. Now, this again gives me heart, because the people that appear on these demonstrations, they just look like crap crisis actors that, the ex-private schoolers. They're not even very good at what they're trying to... it's just so obviously faked Astroturf. These people are paid by... well, I won't mention the names, but we all know who pays these types of people, the people that were behind Black Lives Matter. And so it's all lies, basically, lies designed to get you, to put you into a fear state so that you self-censor and you go along with things without having to be coerced by the police. You just do it yourself. They don't put you in a prison. You decide to put yourself in the prison. You walk into the jail cell and you willingly close the door behind you because you're a coward. So there's a Bible quote here, I think, that seems appropriate, because we're dealing with liars, aren't we? So Proverbs chapter 12, verse 22. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but they that deal truly are his delight. So, yeah, basically God wants us to tell the truth, always, without exception. And we're dealing with pretty dark forces who specialise in lies. So another quote from the Bible. So this is from the book of Genesis, chapter 3, verses 4 to 5. So it goes like this. So the serpent, that's the devil, said to the woman, "You surely will not die. For God knows that in the day you eat from it," that's the apple, "your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." So these people, they try to trick and deceive you into believing that the things that you see, everything that you see on YouTube, everything that you see on the BBC, everything you see on Sky News, it's all true. It's all trickery. They want you to fall for these tricks. And Jesus's message to these people that try to pull these tricks, these deceptions, it's described in the book of John, chapter 8, verse 44. So this is where Jesus is addressing his critics, the people of his time that were trying to deceive and fool people. So Jesus said this, "You belong to your father, the devil, and you want to carry out your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning, not holding to the truth, for there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of all lies." So what I'm saying in conclusion is two things. The first one is watch out for faked stuff that appears on the internet that masquerades as something that's grassroots. A lot of these video clips, they're actually produced by the people who are behind this Great Reset, and they're masquerading as something that's grassroots and authentic when they're not. In particular, watch out for stuff where it's trying to spread fear and doom and gloom, because that's where they want you. Because if they can get you into a fear state, you will self-censor, and therefore you won't be a critic of what they're trying to do, and you're also more likely to go along with what they want you to be, which is a good, obedient slave. Yeah? So, you'll accept your social credit score, you'll accept your central bank digital currencies. What God wants you to be is fearless. Yeah? Back the right side. Choose the right side. If you decide to keep your mouth shut, that isn't a neutral position. You need to think about that. If you decide to be cowardly and self-censor and live as a coward, that is not a neutral position as far as God is concerned. So you need to think about that. Yeah, you should be more fearful of God than of these like cretins and their minions, their World Economic Forum minions. God, you should be a lot more fearful of God than you should be of these people, and the consequences of you choosing to back the wrong side. Okay, and with that, God bless.